Okay. A very good evening to everyone. My name is Neelu Kalra and I am an academic and an entrepreneur. It's a pleasure to be here today for the book reading session. I'm going to take you through Indra Nooyi's memoir, My Life in Full. It was published just last year and some of you may have already read it, while the rest, I hope, will now be motivated to read it. It is just about a 300-page read, but packs volumes of wisdom. I suggest you keep a notepad ready whenever you decide to read it, as there will be a lot of takeaways that you would want to come back to. My Life in Full is an interesting account of the extraordinary life of an extraordinary woman from her early days in India to the pinnacle of one of the world's iconic corporations, breaking several glass ceilings on the way and charting her own course, bringing her own perspective to corporate strategic decision making. It's a book I recommend for all aspiring youth and even professionals who can do with an extra dose of wisdom. It is not just a memoir, it's a template of how to get it right in the corporate world. It is very engaging and an unput-downable book, punctuated with candor and good humor all along. Some beautiful photographs are also incorporated in the book, and these give a glimpse into her exciting life journey. It is not a blueprint for success. It is a tale of mindful choices, of focus, of discipline, frugality, faith in oneself, staying grounded in family values, meeting the right people at the right time, and walking the tightrope between family and work while trying to balance a seesaw with a pie in each hand. The first woman of color and immigrant to run a Fortune 50 company, Indra Nooyi, hardly needs an introduction. She was born in the year 1955, 4 years after her parents married, and just 13 months after her sister's birth. The chronicles of her life read like a fairy tale, dotted with occasional setbacks, but the highs will leave you awestruck. Can one life pack in so much? Well, yes. If you are to see the trajectory of her career from a cozy home in Madras, as it was known at that time, to the CEO of PepsiCo, no less. Today, hers is a case study taught at all major B schools across the globe. She shares her experiences and intellect through her narrative of a young girl who studied in India and went on to the prestigious IIM Calcutta, which at that time had very few female students. And later, she topped it with a second MBA at Yale en route her journey to becoming Indra Nooyi, the icon, the role model, and brilliant corporate strategist. In her rich memoir, we get glimpses of her legendary career with moments of inherent highs and lows, what she describes as one foot on the accelerator, one foot on the brake. It is an engaging autobiography with life lessons, captivating stories within the story, very real yet relatable as they are narrated very humbly. Indra Nooyi takes us through the events that shaped her, from her childhood and early education in the 1960s in Madras through her IIM Calcutta years and to the Yale School of Management, to her dizzying heights from a production manager in a multinational to a corporate consultant and strategist who soon rose into the most senior ranks from CFO to the president and finally to the CEO of PepsiCo. The story begins with a peek in her childhood years with her two siblings, Chandrika and Nandu, her parents and grandfather, whom she lovingly refers to as Thata, and with whom she had a very special emotional bond, as is evident as she reminisces about the interest he took in their education and how he encouraged them to excel at all times. Thata's full name was A. Narayan Sarma. He was born in Kerala and was a retired district judge. He was entirely dedicated to his young grandchildren, introducing them to even more sophisticated books and ideas, expressing geometry theorems and pressing for detail and clarity on their school efforts. Indra was never in doubt that the head of the household and of the family rested in the men's living room, her revered Tata. It was also a very caring household. No matter where you went, one person had to be at home with Tata. At home, every activity was closely monitored. For example, if they wanted to see a movie, the parents would first watch it. It was a strict household, and school set us free, she says. She did her schooling from an all-girls Catholic institution known as the Holy Angels Convent and greatly enjoyed her school years. She joined the Girls Guides program and took part in several debating competitions. She credits debating with a lot of confidence that was reflected in her public speaking even later. She studied physics, chemistry, and biology and was fascinated by her dissection classes. Debating freed her to study topics unrelated to science, world affairs, politics, social issues. Though time consuming, the variety of material and the caliber of fellow debaters really lifted her game. Looking back, she can see that debating helped her to build her confidence and hone her ability to persuade others to accept her point of view and actually push back an opposing perspective. It was endlessly helpful. In grade 10, she became part of a pop music group with her friends, which they called Logarithms, and did many performances and music concerts, and this forms a part of some of her fondest memories. Sadly, in 1968, her father met with a severe accident and they nearly lost him. It was traumatic for the family. Her mother had no means of earning, and she says their education would have in all probability stopped had he not survived, as he was the sole breadwinner of the family. This incident strengthened her resolve to work and be financially independent. She went on to graduate at the Madras Christian College and studied chemistry, physics, and maths there. After a grueling admission process involving a GMAT type of an entrance exam, group discussions with other applicants, and a one-to-one interview, she was selected. Had she not gotten in, she would have been viewed as the failed sibling, since her sister Chandrika had been already admitted to IIM Ahmedabad and her accomplishment had been almost compared to getting a Nobel Prize. So she joined IIM Calcutta in the year 1974 and majored in marketing. She had a rigorous routine through her IIM years. She was one of the 6 women in the 11th class or batch in the Master's Business program. They ate in a big dining hall together with 200 men in the program. She was only 18, while many of her classmates were already in their early 20s. Most were engineers from the famous IITs and had already finished their 5-year programs. She found the guys cheerful and erudite. Dressed in jeans and tees, they played cards, drank, and smoked a lot of grass, which seemed to be widely available. At IIM Calcutta, she was in school with men, taught by men, and studied the work of men to enter industries dominated by men. This was a time when the women's movement for inclusion radiated across the globe. And to quote her, we knew we were on the cusp of something bigger. Definitely, her story is the story of women coming on their own. At the end of her first year at IIM Calcutta, she landed a summer internship at the Department of Atomic Energy in Bombay. She was later picked up for a job at an interview with Meta Beardshell, a Madras-based textile company from among a group of 20, all men except her. Even though the odds were against her, she was selected. Mr. S.L. Rao, who interviewed her, later told her that she was chosen as she held her own against all the men who were trying to talk over her in the group. She worked very diligently at Metro Beardshell, got a decent salary and a car allowance too. No career in the 1970s, she points out, started in an office. It always entailed work on the front line. She learnt about 5 and 6 color screen printing, threads and fabrics, roller printing, and different kind of finishes here. She signed off before large orders were run. Her job at Meta Beardshell, responsibility, authority, and a paycheck gave her confidence that she could now enter unfamiliar terrain and succeed. Door-to-door sales is a very humbling experience, and it has stuck with her forever. Her next stint was with Johnson & Johnson, who had launched the brand Stay Free in India. At work for the first time, she entered an American workplace. The Johnson & Johnson headquarters in India was grand, with fancy offices and an entirely different scale of extras for senior executives. Her pay doubled, the work demanded long hours, and some weekends. Very normal at American multinationals, she later discovered, and a big difference from the hours at Meta Beardshell. She worked as a product manager for India's launch of Stay Free Feminine Protection at the American multinational company's Bombay office. The team had a lot to do to tweak the product to make it widely acceptable. She remembers making delicate conversations with male bosses as it was a topic largely taboo in our country at that time. She was rather comfortable though and did not find it awkward. While she was in Bombay with Johnson & Johnson, it was around this time that she lost her beloved Tata. And it was a huge emotional loss for her. In December 1977, during a visit to Madras over the holidays, she went to the American Library and began to browse back issues of magazines. And there, in a September 1976 issue of Newsweek, with Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford on the cover, she read an article titled A Shade of Difference about Yale University's new business school of public and private management. The article was speaking to her. Over the next few months, she sent away the Yale application and took the GMAT. She got an acceptance letter and the university decided to offer her a financial aid. It would have otherwise been very difficult for her family to finance her education in America. So she left for her onward exciting life journey on board a Pan-American World Airways jet with just $500 in her pocket. She met a young American business on the flight whom she told that she was heading to her university in Connecticut. Quietly, he said, "Look, I'm going to tell you something. It's Connecticut and not Connecticut." He made her practice it carefully. It was a gesture of kindness from a stranger that she could never forget. All the same, hers is not a story of a poverty-stricken immigrant. She spoke English, came for higher education to the US, had the safety net of her family, and was already armed with a good educational degree and several internships and work experiences to her credit. When she landed at the JFK Kennedy Airport, she took a cab at the university campus. And once in her dormitory, she realized she was desperately lonely and frightened. She thought she was prepared, but now in every way she felt like a novice. Of course, she didn't go back. Her journey was just the beginning. She believes in the American story because that's her story. Thankfully, her rigorous schedule at Yale left her with little time for else. Can you youngsters believe that Indra remembers having her first slice of pizza in the US? She had never tasted it earlier. She also didn't know curds in India were called yogurt in the US. She missed her spicy South Indian food and so doused her slices of pizza with red chili flakes. She hadn't tasted mozzarella cheese ever. And she gagged. Pizza just wasn't for her. Her friend Mawson, who introduced pizza to her, or her to the pizza, told her, "There is no question of you not liking it. You have to get used to it. Pizza is a staple in the US." But she survived on salad and bread for a long time, she says. Classes at Yale were fabulous. Faculty was simply superb, and she learned from the best. 1/3 of the students were women, which at that time contrasted starkly with the women presence at IIM. At first, she was quite aghast by her American classmates' relaxed approach to almost everything. And then she was in awe. They exhibited a swagger that no one would have ever dared in India. Students put up their feet on the desk, munched sandwiches, and called the professors by their first name, Wick and Dave. She found the free-flowing discussions spectacular. Topics were explored in depth, pros and cons debated. She had never been part of anything like it. This was her second master's degree, but it was entirely different from IIM Calcutta. Practical, not theoretical at all. Actual cases were used to study business issues. Leaders of industry and government came to talk about real-life examples. Class was a two-way experience. Her one major peeve was that she was uncomfortable about the way she looked and dressed at that time. Despite being such a confident person, she felt uncomfortable that her dress sense was often a target of ridicule, though not openly. And that did not make her feel very good. She was rather self-conscious. She took a while to get used to the Western style of dressing up. Little did she imagine that she would be back at the same university as a role model, and this time her case study would be a part of the course curriculum. For her next interview at Booz Allen, she wore her favorite silk sari with green flowers and a turquoise blouse this time. So she gave up her Western attire for the traditional Indian outfit at this time. She met up with a Booz Allen partner from Texas who put her at ease right away. He conducted a rigorous interview, no doubt, using a business case, and she felt he was judging her ability, not worrying one bit about what she wore or what she looked like. It was truly liberating. She was hired for a summer job in their Chicago office. Booz Allen was an Indiana-based company that made food ingredients, and she dived head into it, true to a hardworking and determined spirit. She had another connection in Illinois. An Indian friend studying in Dallas insisted she meet a guy named Raj Nooyi, a young engineer from Mangalore, India, who had just finished his master's degree at the University of Texas. Raj was working at Eaton, an industrial company in Chicago's sprawling suburbs. So she met her future husband Raj in Chicago, an incredibly smart, well-read and worldly young man who would go on to be her greatest friend, support and fan. They were married at the end of her first year at Yale. Raj's father, N.S. Rao, pulled the two of them aside. He gave them a pep talk about their life ahead, wished them luck, advising them to work hard. Then he said directly to Indra, Indra, don't give up your job. You have all this education and you should use it. We will support you in any which way we can. This was very reassuring for her, and true to their word, Raj's family was always there for them, apart from her own, of course. The next stage in her life begins with her joining the BCG, the Boston Consulting Group in Chicago. She credits her growth as a consultant to the 6 years that she worked here. It was an exhilarating experience, in her own words, full of debate and fascinating people. The breadth of the projects was fantastic. She worked on trust banking, fuel additives, and diesters. She realized that the consulting business really suited her. She excelled in all her projects and learned how best to reposition a company or a business. While at BCG, she worked for a company called Train for a period of 3 years on various projects. Train, as in TRANE, was a Wisconsin-based group that made industrial-sized heating, ventilating, and air conditioning systems, HVAC. It was while working as a consultant that she began developing her own research routines that gave her an edge and a unique perspective. Hereon, a large variety of experiences followed, from artificial sweeteners to bottling of orange juice to tissue and toilet paper. She kept building upon her vast repository of experience and loved the roller coaster ride that she was on as a working woman and immigrant in USA. The travel, however, was unremitting. Week after week, she hustled through the airport, lugging her briefcase and a Hartmann garment bag. The weight of the bag ended up mislining her right shoulder, a memento she carries even today. She feels, however, that she was learning a lot all the time. It was an intellectual high and a physical low. In the year 1983, Indra was pregnant with her first daughter. Sadly, she had to deal with the loss of her father to pancreatic cancer in the same year. He passed away the same day that Raj was to graduate from the University of Chicago with his MBA, a ceremony they all missed. Her mother was only 50 years old when her father died. She was devastated. During the time her father had taken critically ill, she left for India to be with him. Her boss, BCG's head at Chicago office, Carl Stern, offered her 6 months paid leave to take care of her dad. This was a clear indicator of how valuable and indispensable she was to the company. All said, Indra was very grateful for the generosity of Carl Stern, as she would have otherwise had to leave her job to travel to be by her parents' side in those difficult moments in their life. In the following year, 1984, she gave birth to her daughter, Preetha Nooyi. Raj and she were overjoyed and took to parenting enthusiastically. But Indra often laments having to stay away at office for excruciatingly long hours. Her mother came to stay with them. Indra had 3 months of paid maternity leave and the absolutely priceless advantage as a new mother of her own mother there to help her. Raj had no parental leave and had to go back to work. Raj's parents were also very supportive of her job. It was around this time that Indra realized how difficult it can be for working parents to give proper care to children if they do not have the support ecosystem. Family, in her own words, is fundamental to our lives on this planet. The family support didn't end there for the next few years. Raj and she forged ahead in their jobs because they had an extended network on his side and hers who stood by them and wanted them to succeed. In the year 1986, Indra met with a severe accident in Chicago while driving that crushed some bones in her hips and left her covered in cuts. Again, the bosses at BCG stood by her through the ordeal, and she was buttressed by her loving family. In 1988, at the age of 33, she was promoted to the Director of Corporate Strategy and Planning at Motorola. Her boss, Gerard, had hired her even though she was a total outsider because she had been exposed to so many different industries and could apply a strategic framework to understand what drives value in a business. She was outspoken and willing to challenge the status quo. The next stop was at ABB, Connecticut. Gerard and his wife Helga had already moved to Connecticut office of ABB, and she was so ecstatic to work with Gerard once again. Their biggest competitor at that time was GE, led by the legendary CEO Jack Welch. Indra kept adding to her voluminous career, enviable experience and research while working with grit and determination, developing her own personal style of corporate strategy and operations. She gave birth to her younger daughter Tara Nooyi in December 1992. Their family was complete and they were delighted to have 2 daughters. Raj and she loved them dearly and felt the great weight of their responsibility ahead. By now, Gerard was getting restless at ABB as he wanted to run a company himself. I knew that our 7-year adventure together had ended, she reminisces. Indra carried on at ABB for a few months, but the atmosphere soured for her. The new boss, hired from an American-based power generation company, was uncomfortable working with women, and he made it very obvious. He regularly called her honey. For the first time in her career, she felt like she didn't belong. She began to plan her exit, including helping the half-dozen people who worked for her find places in other companies. Quitting ABB like this, she felt, was not some act of bravado. Soon after, she received a call for an interview for the position of Senior Vice President of Corporate Strategy and Planning at PepsiCo, the beverage, snack, and restaurant company. She thought twice about getting into a consumer business. After 8 years at Motorola and ABB, she was steeped in engineering, technology, and massive infrastructure projects. When she heard that PepsiCo also owned KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut, she wondered if the job was really for her. She didn't eat meat. She was vegetarian. How could she relate to these restaurants? Still, PepsiCo was based in Purchase, New York, close to home, and the nature of the job intrigued her. By 1994, PepsiCo was the 15th biggest US company with an annual revenue of $25 billion. It sold drinks and food in more than 150 countries and employed 450,000 people. Advertising campaigns for Pepsi and Diet Pepsi had moved on to feature Ray Charles and Cindy Crawford. Structurally, the company was a three-legged stool. One leg was beverages, including Pepsi Cola, Diet Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Mug Root Beer, and fairly recent joint ventures with Starbucks and Lipton for bottled coffee and tea drinks. A second leg was snacks that included Lay potato chips, Fritos, Doritos, Cheetos, Sun Chips, and a host of others. The company's third leg in 1994 was restaurants. PepsiCo bought the Pizza Hut and Taco Bell fast food chain in the late 1970s, and a few years later added Kentucky Fried Chicken, which was rebranded KFC. At the time she joined, Wayne Calloway was the CEO. When she joined PepsiCo, the number of female CEOs amongst the 500 biggest companies that year was zero. From 1994 to 1999, she worked and worked and worked. She'd go home at night, take a shower, put on her flannel nightgown to show the girls that she wasn't leaving, put them to bed, and sit up reading mail and reviewing documents until 1 or 2 a.m. She was almost never around for dinner. She didn't exercise, she barely slept. At least twice a month, she was traveling back and forth to their businesses around the world. In the year 2000, she became the CFO of the PepsiCo company. In her words, the rules of engagement in corporate leadership are absolutely unforgiving. Deadlines can be very arbitrary too. She had to work very, very hard, and she struggled at this time with the nagging guilt of not being there for her daughter. She carried so much work back home that she was jokingly called the bag lady at her office, with bags full of all the papers. Indra loved her job at PepsiCo and gave it her all after the Quaker Oats takeover, which was one big project by PepsiCo in which she had a very huge role to play. She was promoted finally as the president of PepsiCo. There is an interesting incident she mentions here. While she quietly entered her home late in the night, excited to share this news that she had just become the president with her family, her mother, who opened the door, gently reprimanded her. She said, "Leave the crown in the garage. We are out of milk for the girls. Go get some." So she drove a mile and a half to a shop in the middle of the night to buy a gallon of milk for home on the very day that she became the president of PepsiCo. She negotiated millions and billions of dollar transactions and was mostly on a flying office. She thought it seemed rather elitist, jet setting and flying on company planes, but it was a huge time saver. On days, she could fly 6 hours away and be back home to snuggle into the bed with her daughters. It's another matter that she couldn't help the nagging low-lying guilt when her younger daughter Tara would often say, "Could you be a real mom?" She took her job of a role model very seriously, setting milestone after milestone. On the home front, her daughter Preetha missed her a lot in these years. She was an adolescent, and much of what she saw was a busy, stressed-out mom. Her angst was expressed by verbal outbursts, and Indra struggled to cope with them. Tara was a calmer, quieter child who once wrote her a note, which she still keeps in her desk drawer, that lay bare the emotions of those years. On a big sheet of construction paper decorated with flowers and butterflies, she begged her to come home. "I would love you again if you would please come home," the note says, in her sweet, crooked writing. The word please was spelled out 7 times. Whatever toll her work life took on her role at home, she still had the lifeboat of Raj. When she joined, PepsiCo was completely market-driven, but Indra tried to convert it into a model of sustainable capitalism. Convenience culture and wastefulness upset her a lot, and she diverted her energies towards cutting fat, sugar, and salt levels in their products. Her pet program was PWP, Performance with Purpose, the cornerstone of approach towards dealing with strategy. She worked towards addressing the lack of nutritional value in the products of her company. Once, at her daughter's birthday party, one of the kids asked if she could call home to check with her mom if she could have some Pepsi that day, as she was not permitted otherwise. This really raised a red flag for her. She steered the iconic American company towards healthier products and reinvented its environmental profile despite resistance at every turn. The world of power is designed for men, according to Indra Nooyi. She says women are constantly being judged for being too fat or too thin, too short or too tall. We must remember, as per society's expectations, that we are imperfect. However, she broke the glass ceiling and she became the CEO of PepsiCo in August 2006. Her journey from a corporate strategist to the CFO of PepsiCo to the president finally culminated at the pinnacle as CEO of PepsiCo. She partnered with Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign against obesity. She was great friends with Hillary Clinton and admired her for her political acumen. Hillary was a mentor, a great supporter, a wise advisor, and a connector. Indra accompanied President Obama to India for a state visit, which included a US-India forum. In her words, after the meeting, he invited the US CEO to his hotel suite, and we kicked off our shoes, had a drink, and hung out for a few hours. We chatted about everything personal and professional. He was really one of us. In the year 2007, she was awarded the prestigious Padma Bhushan by the President Abdul J. Kalam. In 2012, PepsiCo won the Stockholm Water Prize, and this was very symbolic for Indra, as Madras was a rather water-starved state, and they were reprimanded for using more than half a bucket of water while bathing back home. So she understood the need for water recycling and reuse, installing water-saving equipment and technology, saving about 6 billion liters of water in 5 years at PepsiCo plants. Under the umbrella of performance with purpose, she spelled out 3 objectives: nourish, replenish, and cherish. Nourish was focused on human sustainability, replenishment ensured environmental sustainability, and cherish was all about ensuring talent sustainability. She spoke at hundreds of events, industry panels, economic clubs, women's conferences, and business schools. She was a popular voice on work-life balance. At the same time, despite being in such a high seat of influence and importance, she felt that she was frequently spoken over, interrupted, and targeted for color as a quota hire. It was disheartening. And sometimes it was amusing too. Whenever any Indian or person of color was hired into PepsiCo North America, it was frequently reported back to her, must be Indra's contact. She jokes, 1.3 billion people of India, are they all my cousins, right? So that's the story of Indra Nooyi. What are the takeaways from this wonderful life story? Family is fundamental to our lives on this planet. We must never take it for granted, but appreciate the solid foundation and strong ecosystem it provides. Her proudest achievement is the family that gave her roots and wings too. Debating clears your shyness. Debating right through college gave her an opportunity to study subjects out of science and gave her a lot of confidence. Number 3, women must be financially independent. Family, as powerful as it is, can be fragile too. She reminisces her father's accident. Had he died, their education would have stopped. Number 4, confidence is a stealer. Build on it to be noticed, to have your own identity, and for letting many other things not to be noticed. Number 5, work is not really optional. Women must have financial independence and power of the purse, period. It's good that work is not optional because the benefits of paid work hardly need any review. Humans thrive when they are challenged. They are proud when they've done a job well, when they have contributed, and gain from being with people who share the same goals. And of course, we all need money to live. Number 6, multi-generational living, so natural to Asian households and many other cultures around the world, can be a tremendous advantage to working families. Number 7, for the youth in corporate jobs and marketing, she has a very valuable piece of advice. Develop your own research routine. Bring something new and innovative. That is you. It will be noticed. Number 8, she roots for paid leave and work flexibility. Do not underestimate the significance of paid leave to get through all kinds of personal situations. Affordable quality childcare should be a priority. Number 9, the final brutal truth. Aiming for a topmost post? Remember, you cannot have a normal work-life balance. Although much overt sexism has been quashed in US, women still have to deal with issues of skewed pay parity, ridicule, and more diversity and inclusion is required. Finally, good businesses demand tough decisions. So tough decision makers do. She honestly admits she could not have a work-life balance. She struggled to cope with her older daughter, Preetha's angst. She didn't exercise, barely slept, although she is lucky to be genetically engineered to sleep for 5 hours. She worked and she worked and she worked. Indra Nooyi is very proud of her achievements, her family, and feels her life has been almost like a lottery, though we know it's not. But I leave it to you all to decide that once you read the book for yourself. Definitely, she gave it her all. Her Tata said, if you take on something, you must give it your all. And if you make a promise, remember to keep it. He insisted on reality. He liked to say he was a lifelong student. Even though I am in my 80s, I am a student like you all, he said. The day I stop my mind, it will be atrophy, and then the body will follow. If he caught them loafing around, he would say, Satan has work for idle hands. According to Indra, her dedication to work, regardless of the challenges, comes from his pushing her to keep going. So we all need that one motivational factor in our life. Indra Nooyi served as CEO of PepsiCo from 2006 to 2019 and now is one of the most sought-after advisors to entrepreneurs, companies, and governments. She's looked upon as a role model for women and immigrants. It is indeed the story of an extraordinary leader's life, a moving tribute to the relationships that created it and a blueprint for 21st century prosperity. Thank you. So this is the book, and let's see. We are now open to discussion. If there are any questions and answers. Don't seem to be many. Just give me a second. ये वाला So I think it's time to pull off the session, and I hope you enjoyed this chat, and I hope everyone goes ahead to read this book. Thank you so much.